Okay, so let's start. तो IRR हम पहले भी देख चुके हैं. IRR is the rate of return or the interest rate at which NPV is zero, right? So it is calculated to see what is the expected rate of return or what is the rate of return you can get. So IRR, sometimes referred to as economic rate of return, measures the profitability of potential investment. It is, as we have seen, it is also a matrix used for capital budgeting. So three things which can be used for capital budgeting. Budgeting basically means where to use the capital. Capital means money, and when money capital is scarce. So there are various methods to find out where should the money go. So IRR is a discount rate at which NPV is zero. So IRR makes the NPV of all cash flows from a particular project equal to zero. Formula is the same. Here in NPV, we get we guess the discount rate. Again, here also we guess the discount rate at which NPV would be zero. So formula used is the same. So to calculate IRR using the formula, one should set NPV equal to zero and solve for the discount rate R, which is the IRR here. Because of the nature of the formula, however, IRR cannot be calculated analytically. Instead, we calculate it either through trial and error or using software program to calculate IRR. While the actual rate of return that is given, that a given project ends up generating will differ from estimated IRR rate, a project with a substantially higher IRR is a better project. That we have seen. If you have to decide between two projects, an IRR which is higher is better. So a project with substantially higher IRR value than other available option would still be a much better chance of strong growth. You can think of IRR as rate of growth a project is expected to generate. And the use of IRR is to compare profitability of establishing new operation with that of expanding old ones. So we've seen these are decision-making tools. You calculate the NPV, you calculate the IRR to say which project is more profitable. So if an energy company can use IRR in deciding whether to open a new power plant or to renovate and expand the previously existing one. So where we have seen these are capital budgeting tool where you can decide which is a better project. With both projects are likely to add value to the company, it is likely that one with more logical decision as prescribed by IRR. So किसमें IRR ज़्यादा आ रहा है? That is the project you will choose. So a higher a project's internal rate of return or IRR, better is the project. And IRR is uniform for investment of various type. IRR can be used to rank multiple prospective projects a firm is considering on a relatively even basis. Assuming the cost of investments are equal among the various projects, the project with highest IRR would probably be considered the best and undertaken first. So the math definition of internal rate of return can make it seem difficult to understand. Its use is straightforward. So you calculate the IRR and choose a project which has better IRR. Companies use IRR to determine if an investment project or expenditure was worthwhile. Calculating the IRR will show if your company made or lost money on a project. The IRR makes it easy to measure the profitability of your investment and to compare other one investment profitable to another. So basically, it's a way of choosing where to invest. So किसी भी काम के लिए फॉर एग्जांपल आप थोड़ा होमवर्क करते हैं ना, सो दिस इज द होमवर्क टू बी डन बिफोर यू चूज एनी इन्वेस्टमेंट. तो किस इन्वेस्टमेंट में आपको पैसा लगाना है. So one primary use of IRR is to determine in advance whether or not a project is or large expense makes financial sense for the company. Therefore, many companies calculate the expected or projected IRR when analyzing one or more projects. So if IRR is better than average or exceeds your company cost of capital, then invest in project. So cost of capital का क्या मतलब हुआ? What is cost of capital? Anyone? Are you guys there? What is cost of capital?
Ma'am, the rent which we pay for using the capital.
Yeah. So the interest rate which you are paying in case you have a debt capital or the dividend which you have to pay if it is a equity. It's a cost of capital. How much you have to pay for raising that capital. So if choosing between multiple investment, choose an investment with highest IRR that we have seen. This assuming all exceeds the cost of capital, which is a combination of cost of the company's long-term debt, preferred stock if it has any, and shareholders equity. So example here, if business sense, this is business sense, bank also lends at a rate which is higher than the rate at which it has accepted the deposit, right? So this is business sense. Anything, if you want to make profit, you have to choose the projects which have a higher IRR than the cost of the capital. So if the company cost of capital is 6%, then any investment or project which has yield as internal rate higher than 6% is feasible. If the capital is presented with an opportunity to purchase long-term treasury bonds at 4%, this IRR of 4% is below the cost of capital and therefore an unbiased investment. However, say another investment opportunity arises, which upon further analysis, the company accountant determines will yield 10%. Obviously, this is a better investment. Cost of capital 6 है, so if you invest at 4%, then it's a loss. The same thing applies to the bank. So therefore, when you will see that all the deposit rates are lesser than the loan rate, right? Because only when the bank borrows it cheap, it will and lends it dearer, will it make profit. So simple business sense. Class 6 से हम लोग देखते आ रहे हैं, only when selling price is more than the cost price, it is a profitable business. So the company should invest in this project because internal rate of return exceeds 6%. So advantage of IRR, it takes time value of money. So the first and the foremost important thing is that it considers the time value of money in evaluating a project, which is lacking in accounting rate of return. Simplicity, this method is very simple to interpret after IRR is calculated. This is preferred by managers till the time they come across certain occasional situations, such as mutually exclusive projects. Now you don't require the hurdle rate or the required rate of return. You just can calculate IRR. So the hurdle rate is a difficult and subjective things to decide. In IRR, the hurdle rate or required rate of return is not required for finding out IRR. and it is not dependent on the hurdle rate, and hence the risk of a wrong determination of hurdle rate is mitigated. Required rate of return is a rough estimate. A required rate of return is a rough estimate being made by the managers, and the method of IRR is not completely based on the required rate of return. Once IRR is found, we can compare it with the hurdle rate. If the IRR is far away from the estimated required rate of return, the manager can safely take the decision on either side and also keep a room for estimation error. So IRR is an indicative return or rate of return which will help you to decide whether a project should be undertaken or not. Disadvantage, we have seen IRR is calculated in percentage term, so it will not give you the exact benefit you can arrive. Somebody wants to say something? So one of the pitfall of use of IRR method is that it ignores the actual dollar value of benefit. So we have seen this if the outflow is very heavy, and if you get the same IRR, then it doesn't make any sense. You also have to consider the initial investment, but IRR does not consider the initial investment. So a project value of 1 million with 18% rate of return should always be preferred over a project value of 10,000 with 50% rate of return. That we all know. So here the IRR is better, but still in dollar terms, a $10 million will generate more money for you. So the dollar benefit will be 1,80,000, whereas the later would be only 5,000. Absolutely no comparison is required. IRR method will rank the later project with very less dollar benefit. First, simply because the IRR of 50% is higher than 18%. So we have seen this IRR only compares the percentage, and it prefers a project which has an higher IRR, but it will not tell you the benefit in actual dollar terms, and which is the disadvantage of taking IRR. Now, now sometimes the companies also, to minimize the risk, they also have a credit default swap, so they can take it in tranches, matlab one by one or single entity. So there can be impractical implicit assumption of reinvestment rate, because जो आप आज ले रहे हो, तो अगर interest rate change होता है, तो next investment would be not at the same rate, but IRR assume that the reinvestment rate would be the same. So while analyzing a project with IRR method, it implicitly assumes that positive future return flow cash flows are reinvested at IRR, which is not true. The future cash flow might not have the same opportunity for investment. If a project has low IRR, it will assume reinvestment of a low rate of return. And on the contrary, if the project has very high IRR, it will assume reinvestment rate at a very high rate of return. The situation is practically not valid. At the time you receive other cash flows, having the same level of investment opportunity is rarely possible. So this is one disadvantage of IRR. It assumes that your reinvestment also would be at the same rate. And we have seen that one of the investment risks can be the reinvestment risk. That means that you will not get the same rate of interest for every investment. It can vary. Then they can be, if there are dependent or contingent project, then also IRR might not give you the correct value. So many times finance manager come across a situation when the project under evaluation creates a compulsion of investing in other projects. For example, if you invest in big transporting vehicle, you also need to arrange a place for parking that as well. So IRR will tell you how the vehicle is going to benefit the company, but it's not going to take care of the parking cost. But if you have decided that you're going to invest in a vehicle, you'll also have to spend some money for the parking. So such projects are called dependent or contingent product, which have to be considered by the manager. IRR may permit buying the vehicle, but if total purpose proposed benefits are wiped out in arranging for the parking space, there is no point in investment. So IRR does not take dependent or contingent project into consideration.
मैम
Yes.
मैम कंटेंजेंट प्रोजेक्ट कौन से होते हैं मैम, जिसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी होती है उनमें, मतलब
Probability होती है,
कंटेंजेंट?
हाँ। अब जैसे आपने व्हीकल लिया, आप उसमें आपने टायर लगाया है और टायर पंचर हो गया, तो इसका कॉस्ट आपने नहीं लिया ना, ये कंटिंजेंट है, हो भी सकता है नहीं भी हो सकता है, राइट?
यस मैम। मैम मींस मतलब कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट हम कर रहे हैं उसमें मतलब कोई चीज जैसे लॉस होने की भी हो, और मतलब क्या इस टाइप का कुछ?
कंटिंजेंट इज लाइक देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ हैपनिंग, इट इज नॉट श्योरिटी नहीं है।
ओके मैम। मैम जैसे कंटिंजेंट प्रोजेक्ट के टर्म में अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं तो मतलब श्योरिटी मतलब किस चीज की नहीं है, मतलब प्रोजेक्ट होने की कि प्रोजेक्ट वो हो
होने
किसी
की
के
नहीं,
साथ?
प्रोजेक्ट में कोई इवेंट होने की।
मैम इवेंट लॉस का प्रॉफिट का कोई भी हो सकता है।
हाँ, पर कंटिंजेंट अगर हम प्लान कर रहे हैं तो वी विल ओनली प्लान फॉर लॉस ना, प्रॉफिट का तो नहीं प्लान करते ना। प्रॉफिट का
यस मैम।
दिस थिंग क्या कहते हैं, कंजर्वेटिव कॉन्सेप्ट, वी प्लान ओनली फॉर लॉसेस, वी डोंट प्लान फॉर प्रॉफिट। प्रॉफिट होगा तो अच्छी बात है।
यस मैम।
कंटिंजेंट इज एनी event which might happen or might not happen.
यस मैम। ओके मैम। और मैम ये जो भी लिखा हुआ है ना म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव प्रोजेक्ट, मतलब दो प्रोजेक्ट मतलब उनमें कोई मतलब रिलेशनशिप नहीं है, इसका मतलब ये हुआ?
करेक्ट करेक्ट, हाँ, म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव प्रोजेक्ट, उनमें कोई रिलेशन नहीं है।
ओके मैम। तो मैम IRR जो होता है वो म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव प्रोजेक्ट्स जो होते हैं उनके लिए मैम एक एक्यूरेट वो नहीं दे पाता होगा ना रिजल्ट?
करेक्ट।
ओके।
So sometimes investors come across mutually exclusive projects, which mean if one is accepted, other cannot be accepted. So building a hotel or a commercial complex on a particular plot of land is an example of mutually exclusive projects. The challenge is to know which one is the best. IRR will give you only percentage interpretation value, which is not enough. Then different terms of projects. So agar time period different hai, then also you will not know which is a better project if you using only the IRR method. So if you consider two projects of different project duration, one ends after 2 years and the other ends after 3 years. One ends after 2 years, another ends after 5 years. The first project has an additional point of reinvesting the money, which is locked at the end of 2 years for another 3 years till the project ends. This point is not considered by IRR method. ये point किसमें consider होगा, कौन से method में consider होगा? Time period कौन से method में consider होगा?
Payback period.
NPV मैम, NPV में,
Payback में.
Payback.
ओके मैम।
Right? So this neither NPV.
मैम
Yeah.
मैम एक बार क्वेश्चन एक बार रिपीट कर दीजिए फिर से जो आपने बोला भी वो।
तो हम यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं one project ends in 2 years and the other one ends in 5 years. IRR will not consider this. I'm saying which
Yes, ma'am.
method would consider. That would be considered
Okay,
under
ma'am.
payback method. No?
Okay.
Then if you have a mix of positive and negative future cash flows, then also it will become difficult. So when a project has some negative cash flow in between other positive cash flow, the equation of IRR is satisfied with more than one rate of return, that it reaches the trap of multiple IRR. तो IRR is simpler to calculate अगर आपके पास एक ही टाइप का कैश फ्लो है, पॉजिटिव कैश फ्लो है, पर अगर नेगेटिव भी है, then it will become difficult. So multiple IRR problem occurs when cash flow during the project lifetime are negative. The project operates at a loss, or the company needs to contribute more capital. This is known as normal non-cash flow, and such cash flow will give multiple IRR. So in theory, we have seen that any project with an IRR greater than its cost of capital is profitable one, and thus it is a company's interest to undertake such project. However, the required rate might be determined. Okay, might be different. Firm will also establish a required rate of return to determine the minimum acceptable return percentage that the investment in question will earn in order to be worthwhile. Any project with an IRR that exceeds the RRR will likely to be deemed to be a profitable one, although companies will not necessarily pursue a project on this basis alone. They'll see where they're getting better IRR. So they will likely to pursue projects with highest difference between IRR and RRR, as chances are these will be more profitable. IRR can also be compared against prevailing rate of return in the security market, right? So अगर आपको 8% security market में मिल रहा है और आपको IRR आपका 7% है, doesn't make sense. No, it is better to invest your money in the security market rather than taking that so much of trouble to run a project. So if a firm can't find any project with IRR greater than the returns that can be generated in financial market, it may simply choose to invest in retained earning into the market. Although IRR is an appealing matrix to many, it should always be used in conjunction with NPV for a clearer picture. So why is that we need to look at NPV also? Why IRR is not enough to decide a project?
Ma'am, because ma'am, NPV consider the time value of the money.
IRR also consider time value of money.
मैम इट विल कंसिडर इन डॉलर्स मैम मैम वो पूरा मैम प्रॉफिट और वो बता देगा मैम लॉस, और आईआरआर मैम परसेंटेज बताता है तो वो उतना करेक्ट नहीं हो पाता है.
Yes, ma'am.
So IRR is a percentage, but NPV tells you the exact dollar value or exact money value of the profit which can be achieved. So IRR has to be used in conjunction or in addition to the NPV.
मैम क्योंकि हम लोग को IRR से मतलब एक एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू नहीं पता चलेगी ना कि
करेक्ट. सो NPV से हमको एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू पता चलती है, IRR से हमें करेक्ट वैल्यू पता नहीं चलती है, राइट?
यस मैम.
So each of the two rules used for making capital budgeting decision has its strengths and weaknesses. The NPV rule chooses a project in terms of net dollar or net financial impact on the company. So it can be easier to use when allocating capital. IRR assumes a discount rate and also assume that this percentage will be stable over the life of the project, which might not be true. NPV also assumes that cash inflows can be reinvested at the same discount rate. In the real world, these assumptions can break down, particularly in period where interest rates are fluctuating. So each one of has its own advantage and disadvantage. We have to look at the complete picture rather than looking at one. So each of the two rules used for making capital budgeting decision has its strengths and weaknesses. The appeal of IRR rule is that a discount rate need not be assumed. This is because the worthiness of investment is purely a function of internal inflows and outflows of the particular investment. However, IRR does not assess the financial impact on a firm. It only requires meeting a minimum rate of return rate. When a project is an independent project, both NPV and IRR will always give the same return, either rejecting or accepting a project. While NPV and IRR are useful metrics for analyzing mutually exclusive project, that is, when decision must be one project or another, these metrics do not always point out in the same direction. In addition, conflict results may simply occur because of the project sizes. So we've seen a project size, जो हमने example देखा था, IRR does not consider the project sizes, so only considers the return which it is getting. So even project which is giving you less dollar impact would be termed as preferential by IRR. So NPV and IRR method can rank two projects differently depending on the size of the investment. So if you look at this project, project A is IRR of 12%, but the NPV is 14,151. Project B, IRR is 20%, but the actual benefit is 6,604. So here the project is ranking if as per RRR, IRR, if you see, project B is preferred, but if you look at the NPV, project A is better.
मैम
क्या?
मैम जो एक्सेल होता है उसमें IRR और मैम एनपीवी निकालने का भी फंक्शन होता है ना फॉर्मूला में?
हाँ 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 होता है. So आजकल थोड़ा सा कैलकुलेशन थोड़ा क्या बहुत इजी हो गया है क्योंकि एक्सेल में you can use these formulas to calculate it. So the NPV and IRR methods can rank two projects differently depending on the size of the investment. So smaller projects can have a higher IRR but will have less of a financial impact, which we saw in the earlier example. Timing of cash flow also affect the IRR method.
मैम टाइमिंग ऑफ कैश फ्लो अफेक्टिंग IRR मेथड, इसका मीनिंग क्या होगा?
IRR assumes that it will be reinvested, no?
Yes,
जब आएगा पैसा तो वो reinvest हो जाएगा. So it considered that as well, na? So here, if you look at the example, initial investment are identical. Project A has a smaller payoff and less of a financial impact, but since it is received sooner, it has a higher IRR. तो आपको पैसा तो मिल गया पहले. अब यहाँ पे assumption क्या होगा कि this will be invested at the same rate, which might not be true, right? When inconsistency arise, NPV is the preferred method. So ये हम पहले भी देख चुके हैं कि अगर IRR or okay, we can't make the decision based on IRR. We'll also can consider NPV. So assessing the financial impact is more meaningful indicator for a capital budget decision. So यहाँ पे दो examples दिए हुए हैं. पहले वाले का IRR 25% है, but financial impact only 17,000 है. NPV 17,000 है. Project B का though IRR is 14.9, your NPV is 49,472, which is much higher than 17,925. So here we will consider NPV rather than IRR. So ये हम देख चुके हैं. We can calculate the annuity. So principal amount, rate of interest, repayment period. So we have seen this and we have done the calculation also using the PMT function in Excel. So आप लोग थोड़ा explore कर सकते हो, though it is not a part of your course, बट इफ यू वांट टू बिकम एन इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर, तो उसका एक सर्टिफिकेशन होता है, NISM डज दैट सर्टिफिकेशन, उसमें ये कैलकुलेशन आपको यूज में आ सकता है, राइट? तो अगर आप आगे चल के ऐसा कुछ करना चाहते हो, देन यू कैन look at it and you can explore this Excel functions on your own. यहाँ पे भी देख लो आप, IRR है, NPV है, PMT फंक्शन तो हमने देखा ही है यूज करके. Right. Now coming to collections. So ये तो हो गया how to decide कि कहाँ किसको लोन देना है, किसको नहीं देना है, and the pricing of the loan. But the function of the work of the bank does not stop until the money which they have given comes back to them. So collection is a very important part of your loan process. And as we were talking yesterday, bank also appoints collection agents to collect this money. So however, because the banks, there were cases of harassment also, because the bank used to appoint agents and agents would not be very polite to customers. So there have been some guidelines which have come from the BCSBI or banking service standards. Again, I'm forgetting the CSBI.
Codes and banking codes and standards of India.
So they have given some standards or some norms or guidelines for how this collection would be done. So now the banks cannot put undue pressure or harassment. Calling should be between 8 p.m. or AM to 8 p.m., not later than that. Against the perception collection is a delicate communication and follow-up job. तो यहाँ पे follow-up है, agents वही करते हैं. They keep on reminding customers to make the payment. आपने movies वगैरह में देखा होगा, serials में देखा होगा how agents go to the house of the customer to get that money. So ऐसा नहीं कि बैंक जो है कभी भी कलेक्शन के लिए जा सकता है. There are certain norms or certain conditions which we have to. So first norm is the classification of the debt. तो हर debt कोई delinquent नहीं है. Delinquent मतलब कि it is not that it is not coming. So you have to classify how long it has been due. So for the concern of understanding the severity of delinquency, we need to divide them into 4 buckets. So they are calculated from due date in unit of due date. So how old is your collection? So 0 to 30 days, first bucket. 31 to 60 days is second bucket. 61 to 90 days is third bucket, and above 90 days is a fourth bucket. So it is calculated from the due date. So to come out of a certain bucket, borrower has to nullify all the dues pending against him or her. So अगर इस bucket में है, if he pays, he will be out of this. So he has to pay all money. So if the due on 26th March is 78,450, customers cannot pay anything less than this amount to come out of delinquency. Even if customers pay 78,000, the due dates of customer will not come down. So he has to pay the entire money.
मैम
हाँ,
मैम फर्स्ट बकेट सेकंड बकेट मैम इसको बता दीजिए एक बार फिर से.
मतलब कितने दिन ड्यू है. सीरियसनेस कम है ना, कि मान लो किसी के घर में कोई बीमार पड़ गया, तो हो सकता है उसको 15 दिन डिले हो जाए. ऐसा नहीं कि उसके पास पैसा नहीं है, पर कुछ इमरजेंसी आ गई तो डिले हो सकता है. फिर अगर 30 दिन के बाद भी नहीं आया तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है. फिर 60, क्योंकि इसमें अगर आप देखो तो सीरियसनेस इंक्रीजेस. इसमें किसमें सबसे इजी होगा पैसा कलेक्ट करना? यूजुअली 0 to 30 days वुड बी द इजीएस्ट. कोई भी कंटिजेंसी आ गई कस्टमर के, तो ही माइट नॉट बी एबल टू पे, या ही भूल गया, राइट? तो इसलिए कि क्या सीरियसनेस है, क्योंकि सबका ट्रीटमेंट अलग अलग होगा। इसमें तो अगर आप कस्टमर को कॉल करोगे, मे बी से ओह आई फॉरगॉट एंड देन मेक द पेमेंट, ऐसा भी हो सकता है ना, कभी आप भूल जाते हो ड्यू डेट, राइट
यस मैम।
राइट। तो इसलिए
मैम
यू
जैसे
क्लासिफाई।
मैम जो ये मैम क्लासिफाई हुआ है फर्स्ट बकेट मतलब सारा ये सेकंड
हाँ
थर्ड,
हाँ,
तो
कितने
मैम
दिन से ड्यू है।
मैम यस मैम मतलब ड्यू डेट निकल जाने के बाद का है ना?
यस हाँ
ओके मैम। मैम इसमें कुछ चार्जेस वगैरह वगैरह जैसे मतलब
हाँ,
अगर
बिल्कुल
बढ़ता जा
बिल्कुल,
रहा है, टाइम पीरियड बढ़ता जा रहा है तो चार्जेस वगैरह,
करेक्ट करेक्ट, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, ऑब्वियसली
तो
बिकॉज
मैम
द बैंक इज
मैम
लूजिंग दैट इंटरेस्ट ना।
यस मैम तो मैम जो स्टार्टिंग वाला होगा जो क्लासिफिकेशन उसमें सबसे कम रहेगा मतलब
करेक्ट
इंटरेस्ट मेरे हिसाब
करेक्ट
से।
करेक्ट। Right, so classification of delinquencies, what happens when a borrower to the borrower when the account becomes delinquent. Borrower is charged with collection charges, borrower is also charged with overdue charges, right? बैंक ने आपको बोला है कि आपको अभी इतने में पैसा देना है, अगर आप नहीं दे रहे हो तो ऑब्वियसली बैंक इज गोइंग टू चार्ज यू। सो इंग्लिश में एक कहावत है ना, स्टिच इन टाइम सेव्स नाइन, राइट। तो अगर आप टाइम पे काम कर लेते हो, it will save you the it will save you further trouble, right? So controlling is it early is the key. और अगर आप डेटा भी देखोगे तो आपके जो 0 to 30 डेज वाले केसेस हैं, दे गेट सॉल्व इजीली, वो आपके जल्दी सॉल्व हो जाते हैं। तो 60% ऑफ द केसेस गेट सॉल्व इन द 0 to 30 डे बकेट। और जैसे ही ये टाइम पीरियड बढ़ता जाता है, it becomes difficult to collect this money, right? So 0 to 30 days first bucket, so 60% cases get resolved in this stage. Soft collection, things work out with repeated phone calls and few visits. In case of infant delinquencies, involvement of sales is a must, क्योंकि sales is the person who has sold them, तो customer का कोई relation maintain होगा sales person के साथ, so here the sales person is involved. Then 30 to 60 days second bucket, 38% case get resolved in this stage. So moderate collection requires regular follow-up on phone and multiple visits by both the sales, senior in sales and collection team. With 60 to 90 days, third bucket, 2% cases reach this stage. So hard nut cases needs attention of all sales, credit and legal along with collections to look at the CAM approval along with the risk mitigate propose and handle the customer in a tactful manner. So यहाँ पे easiest है, उसके बाद जैसे जैसे ये टाइम पीरियड बढ़ते जाता है, इट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट। So however, you have to also keep the customer in mind, and especially this time, अभी के टाइम में तो a lot of people who want to pay are also do not have the required money, so you have to handle it delicately. So if you look at so willful defaulters हो सकते हैं, willful मतलब कि पैसा है फिर भी नहीं दे रहे हैं, but a lot of them are under financial stress and therefore they are not able to pay the money, so you have to handle it very tactfully. So always remember, customer in financial distress is unorganized. Such customer needs organized follow-up from us. Remember, if we fail to follow up discipline, customer is bound to move to the next bucket. Inform customer about credit history being spoiled. So हमने देखा है ना कि हमारी credit history बनती रहती है, right? कैसे बनेगी credit history? किस चीज से बनेगी क्रेडिट हिस्ट्री?
मैम रीपेमेंट ऑफ लोन इन टाइम।
हाँ जो, हाँ करेक्ट, राइट. तो इफ यू आर नॉट पेइंग योर लोन्स इन टाइम, ऑब्वियसली इट कैन स्पॉइल योर क्रेडिट हिस्ट्री. तो यू नो थोड़ा सब कस्टमर होगा तो इस बात से डर जाएगा कि आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर खराब हो जाएगा. So again, the more proactive you are, the better it would be to collect the money. The easier it would be to collect the money. So approach to housekeeping, matlab cleaning out the loans, monitor the number of cases in the first bucket in the first month. Target that next month, the portfolio of branch should have at least 20% less customer in the first bucket. Start doing calling to all customers who are due for EMI. Gentle reminder help in better portfolio quality as well as greater worthy references. Right? You know, ये मैं आपको पहले भी एग्जांपल दे रही थी कि 0 to 30 days वाले can be some very you know genuine reason कि भूल गए, घर में कोई बीमार है और things like that, right? तो आप कॉल करेंगे, so probably you will the earlier you call, the more are the chances of you getting the money. So start predicting customers who are susceptible to DPD. तो default के लिए जो susceptible है उनको identify करना है, be proactive. So then you might have some tough nut. Tough nut मतलब कि जो कि पैसा देने को तैयार नहीं है. In that case, you'll also have to take help of your legal and collection. So आपको carrot और stick. Carrot और stick क्या है कि आप कुछ लालच भी दे रहे हो और कुछ डरा भी रहे हो, right? तो जैसे कि सर आपको कम चार्जेस पड़ेंगे, अगर आप पे कर देंगे तो आपको कम चार्जेस पड़ेंगे, so that is the carrot. पर अगर आप नहीं पे करेंगे तो आपके अगेंस्ट लीगल एक्शन हो सकता है, that is a stick. So दोनों चीजें आप using positives and negatives to convince the customer. These are ways you you know convince people. इसी तरह से आप convince करते हो. So try to extract something on every meeting. Legal, credit collection and sales combining needs to derive a plan to extract money. तो sales तो जरूरी आएगा क्योंकि sales are the people who have sold this product. तो उन्होंने किस basis पे बेचा and what are the backups they have made. Okay. So and you can also get in touch with the referencing of the customer. अगर कुछ नहीं हो रहा है तो फिर लीगल नोटिस भेजना पड़ेगा. So legal notice is required to be sent on every instant of loan defaults done by the borrower. Courts and regulators say the financier should give the borrowers ample notice before taking any extreme step. Right? So the extreme step लेने से पहले we have to inform the customer. So it is always advisable to internally treat every event of default as the case which turn into NPA. NPA मतलब 90 दिन तक आपका पैसा नहीं आया तो वो नॉन परफॉर्मेंस एसेट की कैटेगरी में आ गया. तो उससे पहले you need a proactive approach. So don't let your customer turn an NPA because then it will be difficult to recover. तो जहां पे भी डिफॉल्ट, एक दिन का भी डिफॉल्ट हो, call the customer and ask him to pay. So legal notice prior to NPA is called demand notice. Major points that a demand notice should contain: so name of the borrower, loan account, address of the borrower, reference of accepted sanction letter, date of execution of loan agreement. So जो आपने ये, if you remember, these were the things in our draft loan agreement. तो ये चीजें हमें चाहिए because अगर कस्टमर पे नहीं कर रहा है तो we have to quote this in the demand notice we are sending. So similarly, second demand notice is issued in the same lines. Post issuing the third demand notice, we go for something different. फिर हम legal recourse पे जाएंगे. So here you have to also mention line or action if not complied with. अगर पैसा नहीं दिया तो क्या होगा. और ये एक तरीका होता है ना कन्विंस करने का कि आप ये कर लो, अगर नहीं करोगे So this is what we are going to do. So again, we have to be polite because we are bankers, but we have to clearly indicate as to what will happen if not compliant. तो ये आप लोग एज अ होमवर्क ले सकते हो, पेज नंबर 217. कल एक डिमांड ड्राफ्ट नोटिस लेके आइएगा. तो क्या क्या होना चाहिए ऊपर दिया हुआ है, 216 पे दिया हुआ है व्हाट शुड बी देयर. टुमारो ड्राफ्ट अ लीगल नोटिस, उसको आप अपने डिवाइस पे टाइप कर लीजिएगा सो दैट यू कैन शेयर इट विद अस. So we will see it tomorrow. Or tomorrow we are going to do aptitude. I'm going to start with a new topic. I'm going to cover it and this topic today, and then tomorrow we will do aptitude and this homework. ठीक है. अब बैंक को नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट हो गए हैं, मतलब वो लोन जो कि वापस नहीं आ रहे हैं, या तो इंटरेस्ट नहीं आ रहा है या प्रिंसिपल नहीं आ रहा है या दोनों नहीं आ रहा है. ठीक है. So I've told this many times, but again I'll repeat. Asset is something which a business has to generate more money, right? Banks के लिए assets loans हैं, तो बैंक expect कि जब बैंक लोन दे रहा है, so the bank would get some interest and the principal back. If it is not happening, it is a non-performing act. So NPA is defined as a loan or an advance in respect of which interest or installment of principal remains overdue for a period of more than 90 days in respect of term loan, or remains out of order for a period of more than 90 days in respect of overdraft and cash credit. Now ये दोनों में difference क्या है? ये दोनों ही business finance है. इसमें difference क्या है? क्या difference है दोनों में? हेलो. टर्म लोन और कैश क्रेडिट में क्या फर्क है? Are you guys there या सो गए हो? हेलो अभिनव, what is the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ, क्या difference है दोनों में?
टर्म लोन और सीसी में
हाँ,
सीसी लॉन्ग टर्म होती है और टर्म लोन जो है वो 1 ईयर के अंडर में होता है.
मैम शॉर्ट
टर्म लोन मतलब फॉर अ लॉन्गर टर्म.
यस मैम शॉर्ट टर्म होता है,
Cash
कैश क्रेडिट. यस मैम.
shorter term. Right. So overdraft and cash credit are short-term loans, whereas term loan is longer-term loan. तो टर्म लोन हम फिक्स एसेट फाइनेंसिंग के लिए लेंगे और कैश क्रेडिट हम वर्किंग कैपिटल फाइनेंस के लिए लेंगे. So overdue means not receiving it. Due है.
मैम आपकी
उसके-
आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
हेलो, किसी को नहीं आ रही आवाज मेरी?
मैम आ रही है आपके पास.
आ रही है मैम.
मैम आ रही है.
तो अभिनव आप अपना चेक कर लो, आपको आ रही है अब आवाज? So any amount due to bank under any credit facility, credit is loan as we have seen, if not paid by due date, sorry, fixed by banks become overdue. An asset including a lease asset becomes non-performing when it ceases to generate income for the bank. So we have understood what is NPA. Any asset which does not generate income for the bank is an NPA. Now, NPS हमारा बहुत दिन से बढ़ रहा है. अभी तो there are because of pandemic also the percentage of NPA has increased. But जब कोई problem होता है तो एक recommendation committee बनती है to see what can be done for tackling it. तो एनपीएस जैसे बढ़ रहे थे, so RBI appointed a committee under the chairmanship of Narasimhan, Mr. Narasimhan, to give recommendation on reducing the NPA, right? तो ये आज की बात नहीं है, काफी पुरानी बात है. However, Narasimhan committee included, gave recommendation for to tackle this thing, to tackle the NPAs, right? So they spoke about income recognition. When will the bank recognize the income? How will you classify the asset? So हर asset आपके performing नहीं है, performing है, और कुछ आपके एकदम लॉस्ट एसेट है. लॉस मतलब वो कभी पैसा वापस आना ही नहीं है, राइट? सो वो आपके लॉस एसेट्स है. सो एसेट को आपको क्लासिफाई करना है. सो आपका जितना लोन है, एसेट मतलब लोन ना, फॉर द बैंक. तो you have to classify. Some will be your standard asset. स्टैंडर्ड एसेट का क्या मतलब हुआ? स्टैंडर्ड एसेट का क्या मतलब हुआ? हेलो, स्टैंडर्ड का क्या मतलब हुआ? स्टैंडर्ड की चीज है. स्टैंडर्ड का क्या
मतलब इसकी यस मैम उसका पेमेंट प्रॉपर वे में हो रहा है,
राइट? सो ऑल योर एसेट्स आर नॉट द सेम. तो कुछ आपके स्टैंडर्ड एसेट्स हैं जिनका पेमेंट आ रहा है. सो दोज आर योर स्टैंडर्ड एसेट. उसके बाद आपके जहां पे आपका पेमेंट नहीं आ रहा है, वो आपके सब स्टैंडर्ड एसेट्स हो गए. मतलब कि पेमेंट नहीं आ रहा, अभी एनपीए नहीं हुआ, ये सब एसेट हो गया. उसके बाद क्या होगा? डाउटफुल. डाउटफुल मतलब
क्या बोला था अभी आपने मैम? सब स्टैंडर्ड. मैम ये क्या होता है, एक बार फिर से बता दीजिए.
स्टैंडर्ड मतलब जिसका पैसा आ रहा है. सब स्टैंडर्ड मतलब
ठीक है.
हाँ, 1 साल तक पैसा नहीं आया है तो सब स्टैंडर्ड है, स्टैंडर्ड से नीचे है. उसके बाद है डाउटफुल.
मतलब ड्यूरेशन थोड़ा सा कम हो सकती है बट बाद में आएगा.
मतलब सब स्टैंडर्ड है, मतलब आपको फॉलो अप करना है, बट चांसेस है कि आप रिकवर इसको स्टैंडर्ड बना सकते हो, क्योंकि अभी सिर्फ एक ही साल बीता है कि आपके पास पैसा नहीं आ रहा है, राइट?
ओके मैम.
वो सब स्टैंडर्ड है. उसके बाद डाउटफुल मतलब 1 साल बीत गया है. अब 1 साल बीत गया है तो पैसा आना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो गया, तो ये डाउटफुल एसेट है. ओके, एंड देन देयर विल बी लॉस एसेट. लॉस मतलब कि अब ये पैसा आना नहीं है, बैंक को अपने जेब से इसकी भरपाई करनी है. So one of the recommendation of the Narasimhan committee was to classify your asset into various classes so that you know what to do. तो अगर आपका सिर्फ सबस्टैंडर्ड हुआ है तो आपके पास अभी टाइम है, you can recover that money, right? And then they also spoke about provisioning. Provision matlab to make provisions or make what to say, make room for this लॉस एसेट. मतलब जो आप देख रहे हैं एनपीए, उसमें से कुछ होंगे जो नहीं आएंगे, उसका भरपाई आप कहां से करेंगे? दैट इज द प्रोविजनिंग. So Narasimhan committee also said that there has to be provisional for the NPAs. Yes, you had something to say? Abhinav, you had something to say?
यस मैम, मेरा नेटवर्क चला गया था, मैं चेक कर रहा था कि आ रही है आवाज की नहीं.
आ रही है आपकी आवाज, राइट? तो Narasimhan committee spoke about 3 recommendations, which is income recognition, then classification of asset, and provisioning. So we have seen the NPAs, an asset becomes non-performing when it ceases to generate income for the bank. Interest or installment of principal remains overdue for a period of more than 90 days in respect of term loans or CC or a bill. A non-performing asset is a loan or advance where the account remains out of order in respect of overdraft, cash credit, or the bill remains overdue for a period of more than 90 days in case of bill purchase or bill discounted. So this is the classification which I've told you. So this is the recommendation of the Narasimhan committee, where they categorically tell the banks to classify their assets. into 4 categories. One is the standard assets. So इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. Advances accounts which does not disclose any problem or does not carry more than normal business risk. Then you have the substandard asset, which have remained NPA for a period of less than or equal to 12 months. Then doubtful assets, which have remained NPA for a period of more than 12 months, and doubtful where the loss have been identified by the bank or internal or external auditor of the RBI inspection. Salvage value, how much money you can recover, is negligible, and the entire asset is proposed to be written off after necessary approval. Written off का मतलब क्या है कि bank will have to pay it from their profit. So these are loss assets. So NPA for a period of not exceeding 12 months are substandard assets. NPA for a period of exceeding 12 months are doubtful assets, and loss assets are assets which cannot be recovered. So if you look at the NPAs, it's quite a glaring revelation. So obviously private sector banks will have better NPA management because comparatively they are newer and they are better managed. So they will have better NPAs management. So NPAs affect the recovery of affect the profit of the company. So if you want to see, you can go and look at PNB profits. The probably I think 2017 or 18, PNB reported a loss because of the Nirav Modi case. So I don't remember exactly 18 or 19. I do not remember, but check and जो Nirav Modi का जो भी लोन था उसको PNB में राइट ऑफ. Sorry. Hello. Anyway, so PNB ने नीरव मोदी के जो भी डिफॉल्ट था उसको राइट ऑफ किया and then they reported a loss. So NPA impact on the balance sheet, the non-recovery of loan affects not only further availability of credit but also financial soundness of the bank. NPA, yes.
मैम राइट ऑफ की ड्यूरेशन क्या होती है?
ड्यूरेशन मतलब
मैम जैसे राइट ऑफ में केस जब जाता है तो मैम उसकी क्यों ड्यूरेशन होती होगी ना मैम? जैसे 90 डेज पे एनपीए होता है.
नहीं, ऐसा कोई ड्यूरेशन नहीं होता है ना. बैंक जब सब कुछ कर चुका होता है और उसको पता है कि अब हमको वी कैन नॉट रिकवर इट एनीवे, हमारे पास कोई एसेट भी नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है, तब उस केस में वो राइट ऑफ करेगा. कोई ड्यूरेशन नहीं है.
लीगल एक्शन लेने के पहले या लीगल एक्शन लेने के बाद?
सब कुछ करने के बाद ना. लीगल एक्शन तो मतलब लीगल एक्शन आप लोगे. फॉर एग्जांपल नीरव मोदी के केस में लीगल एक्शन तो है ना, बट कुछ हुआ तो है नहीं ना.
मैम जैसे अभी एक ऑटो लोन का मेरे जानकारी में था, उसमें 4 महीने या 5 महीने का मतलब किस्त नहीं पे किया था और गाड़ी भी नहीं मिल रही थी बैंक वालों को, तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये केस राइट ऑफ में चला जाएगा. तो मैम इसका क्या मतलब हुआ?
हाँ, राइट ऑफ में चला जाएगा मतलब गाड़ी नहीं है. अगर गाड़ी होती तो वो लोग गाड़ी लेके उसको रिकवर कर लेते पैसा. अब गाड़ी ही नहीं है तो पैसा कैसे लेंगे? अब कोई उनके पास तरीका नहीं है ना.
मैम जिस कंडीशन में अगर कोई एसेट नहीं मिलेगी उनको तभी राइट ऑफ होगा केस.
राइट मतलब कोई तरीका नहीं है. उस राइट ऑफ का क्या मतलब है कि आपको लॉस हो गया, आपने मान लिया ये पैसा वापस नहीं आएगा, तो वो राइट ऑफ हो गया. तो ऐसा ड्यूरेशन नहीं होता है. द मोमेंट द बैंक रियलाइजेस कि अब इसमें कोई तरीका नहीं है कि आई कैन रिकवर दिस मनी, इन दैट केस इट वुड बी राइट. सो ऑब्वियसली इट विल अफेक्ट द प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी. जितना राइट ऑफ करेगा बैंक उतनी ज्यादा प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कम होगी. So NPA puts detrimental impact on the profitability as banks stop to earn income on one hand and attract higher provisioning compared to standard assets on the other hand. So provisioning bank को बनानी पड़ती है as a percentage of the NPAs. The increased NPAs put pressure on recycling of funds and reduce the ability of banks from lending more and thus result in lesser interest income. Assets affect the liquidity position of the bank, create assets and liability mismatch, and force the bank to raise resource at high cost. Now let us understand liquidity management. Ab tell me what will a maturing asset result for the bank, cash inflow or cash outflow? Maturing asset से बैंक को कैश इनफ्लो होगा या कैश आउटफ्लो होगा? कोई एसेट मैच्योर कर रहा है तो
मैम इनफ्लो,
मैं कैश इनफ्लो
मैम
होगा।
इनफ्लो,
कैश
इनफ्लो
इनफ्लो
होगा।
होगा, ठीक है। और व्हाट वुड अ मैच्योरिंग लायबिलिटी मीन?
मैम आउटफ्लो,
आउटफ्लो, ठीक है। तो बैंक ट्राइज टू मैनेज द लिक्विडिटी बाय दैट। अगर कोई लायबिलिटी मैच्योर हो रही है, बैंक शुड आल्सो हैव अ करस्पॉन्डिंग एसेट व्हिच इज मैच्योरिंग, तो यहाँ से इनफ्लो होगा तो वहां पे आउटफ्लो हो जाएगा। पर अगर ऐसा नहीं होता है तो क्या करना पड़ेगा बैंक को? What will the bank have to do if the bank does not have, if it does not have a matching maturity asset and liability? What will the, और कोई liability mature हो रही है तो बैंक को क्या करना पड़ेगा? तो that means बैंक का आउटफ्लो होना है पर बैंक के पास पैसा नहीं है, तो बैंक क्या करेगा? किसी के पास पैसा नहीं होता तो वो क्या करता है?
मैम डेट ले,
हाँ,
मैम
borrow करता
लोन
है।
लेंगे।
हाँ, तो बैंक को लोन लेना पड़ेगा, राइट?
मैम मैम वो हम लोग का एक ग्रुप है ना एमआरटिकस का, उस पर शालिनी का मैसेज आया कि उसका नेटवर्क कुछ इशू है इसलिए वो क्लास नहीं ले पा रही है।
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं।
ओके मैम।
तो क्या होगा फिर? बैंक अगर लोन लेगा तो बैंक का कॉस्ट बढ़ेगा, राइट? तो यहाँ पे भी प्रॉब्लम होगी। एनपीए का क्या है? मतलब यही है कि ना वो पैसा वापस नहीं आ रहा है, तो बैंक ने तो दिया होगा कि अच्छा ये लायबिलिटी है मेरी, ये पैसा वापस आएगा, आई विल गिव, but this money is not coming back, then the bank will have to borrow. Borrowing will obviously add a cost to the bank. And also capital adequacy. Let's talk about capital adequacy. Capital, we know the money invested in the business. Now Basel norm says that आपका जो भी capital है, it should have a relationship with the asset, right? So for example, they say simple terms में कि अगर आप 100 रुपए का लोन दे रहे हो तो आपके पास कम से कम 10 रुपए अपना कैपिटल होना चाहिए, राइट? तो बैंक एक रिस्क है, तो ऑब्वियसली दे विल हैव टू इंप्रूव देयर कैपिटल, राइट? सो दे हैव टू मेंटेन अ एडिक्वेट कैपिटल टू द रिस्क वेटेड एसेट। सो एनपीए मतलब रिस्की एसेट्स है, तो उस हिसाब से बैंक को अपना कैपिटल भी इंक्रीज करना पड़ेगा। So NPAs have a very negative effect on the bank's profitability. और NPAs ज्यादा होंगे तो शेयर होल्डर कॉन्फिडेंस भी घटेगा, शेयर प्राइस भी घटेगा. So the increased NPA level is likely to have adverse impact on bank business as well as profitability. Thereby, the shareholders do not receive a market return on their capital, and sometimes it may erode their value of investment. As per extant guidelines, banks whose NPA level is 5% or above are required to take private permission from RBI to declare dividend. Public confidence would also decrease with the increase in NPA. The increased NPA may pose liquidity issue, which is likely to lead run on banks by deposits. Thus, the increased incidence of NPA not only affects the performance of the bank, but also affect the economy as a whole. Now, it will affect the net interest margin as well. What is net interest margin? How do you calculate net interest margin?
And the interest we give on deposit minus bank give on deposit minus the interest they get on loan.
It will be higher.
Yes, ma'am, it is higher.
Which is higher? Interest they receive will be higher.
Ma'am, the interest they
Actually,
get.
the interest they receive on loan minus the interest they pay.
Yes,
Otherwise, you will get a negative value. Yeah. So obviously, it will have a negative effect on the net interest margin because the interest which you are supposed to get, you're not receiving. Right. So the NIM will also be affected. Bank pay interest at different rates for the deposit they are accepting from the customers called depositors. They also have to collect interest for the advances. They lend to the customers called borrowers. They keep a certain margin between the interest charge and the interest paid. They reduce the net interest income as the interest is not charged on these accounts. So the bank is not getting the interest. It will reduce the NIM. So this is some data about the NPA. So NPA's position in India actually is quite worrisome, and it's going to worsen with the pandemic taking its toll. So there, the government is also trying to take some actions to handle this NPA. So with the Supreme Court quashing Reserve Bank of India February 12 circular on revised framework for resolution of stressed asset. Stressed asset भी आप पढ़ेंगे, stressed asset का कुछ मतलब नहीं है, मतलब वो NPA है. The central bank on Thursday said it will take necessary step, including issuance of revised circular for expeditious and effective resolution of stressed asset. Now, इकोनॉमी पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा? एनपीए पे कुछ इकोनॉमी पे इफेक्ट पड़ेगा?
मैम किस चीज से?
एनपीए से
बिल्कुल पड़ेगा.
हमें क्या पड़ेगा? Because that money is stuck. That money is stuck. That money is not in circulation. Also, then taking loans will become difficult, right? If taking loan becomes difficult, then obviously there's a problem. And provisioning भी रखनी पड़ेगी, मतलब bank will have to keep this money aside, which they will not be able to lend. So banks have to adhere to the provisioning norms set by RBI for bad loans which eat into their profitability. This leads to bank having lesser capital to deploy, shareholders losing money, and bank finding it tough to survive in the market. If banks do not classify an asset as NPA, they naturally have more money to advance to earn interest on. So everything is affected with higher NPAs. Now, NPA classification का misclassification का और एक disadvantage है. If large NPAs go unreported, the bank would reach a situation where it had advanced more money than it was available, leading to a situation of technical bankruptcy. In line of attaining the Basel norms, the burden of maintaining capital adequacy ratio increases. It also affects the competitive position of the bank. So NPA are actually detrimental to the profitability of the bank. And India as an economy is largely dependent on banks to raise capital, as the bond market is not that well developed. So for the economy, it is disadvantageous as banks become more circumspect in giving loans which affect the credit of taking in economy. So we have seen for the growth of the economy, there has to be ease of generating credit, right? So loan आसानी से मिलना चाहिए, तभी तो economy grow करेगी. अगर loan आसानी से नहीं मिल रहा है, then it would have adverse effect. So the price of loan, that is the interest rates, will shoot up. This leads to declining gross capital formation, affecting economic growth. So ये हमने economy में introduction to finance में ये बहुत अच्छी तरह से देखा है कि economic growth के लिए हमको capital चाहिए या पैसा चाहिए. अगर पैसा generate करने में कुछ दिक्कत आएगी, तो obviously the economy would be affected. So rising of NPA will lead to a crisis or confidence in the market, and that's why RBI is working overtime to take care of the NPAs. So this will hurt the overall demand in the Indian economy, which will lead to lower growth rates and of course higher inflation because of higher cost of capital. So even NPAs would increase the interest rates in the market. The trend may continue to in a vicious cycle and deepen the crisis. It will also impact the retail customers like us who will have to shell out a higher interest rate on a loan. And taking a loan will become difficult. Shooting of interest rates will directly impact the investors who wish to take loans for setting up infrastructure industries project as well. So this we have seen for the development of the economy, lower interest rates or the ease of taking credit is required. But if there are huge NPAs, it will affect the interest rate as well as the ease. And if it becomes difficult to take the loan, then it will also become difficult for the economy to grow. There has to be a resolution strategy framework, which means restructuring of loan based on transparent policy to maximize the overall recovery value, fair treatment to all stakeholder and settlement. Then asset management strategy or asset restructuring. So that can be done by sale of business or collateral or preservation and enhancement of value of business collateral, orderly disposal through transparent process. So to recover the NPA, the bank can use the assets which have been kept as collateral. So just a simple example I can give you is like in ICICI Bank, we had a training center at Khandala. Now, training center at Khandala was not a bank, the bank's investment. Bank had given loan to a person to run a resort. That person was not able to run that resort and it became an NPA. So the bank started using that resort as a training center. So that saved cost to the bank, which the bank incurred for training. So bank is using the asset of the customer who was not able to pay that money. So the bank, the lender can also use the asset to generate income. Okay, so bank can capture value by staying invested in the asset till the resolution stage. So bank का, bank simple process है. बैंक का अगर आप देखो तो बिजनेस सिंपल है, यहाँ से लिया वहां दे दिया, वहां से वापस लिया और वापस दे दिया. पर अगर यहाँ पे जहां से पैसा आना है, that money doesn't come, bank will have to take some measures to generate that money or to recover that money. So bank would look out at restructuring of the loan or sale of business or getting a joint venture partner or strip sale of assets or settlement with existing promoters. So bank also gets involved in the working of or management of that business. So they can also sell to asset reconstruction companies or trust, which are specialized in restructuring or recovering the money from the borrower. So bank can also do that. अगर आप लोग पेपर पढ़ते हैं तो आपने देखा होगा there's a discussion going on for setting up a bad bank. Bad bank would be an asset restructuring company which will take the NPAs from the bank and try to recover that money. Right, so bank can sell their loan assets as to asset reconstruction company or trust, and they will then the risk would pass to the ARCs and they will recover it from the borrower. So pooling or sale of securitization. तो ये थोड़ा सा technical चीज है, how the bank tries to recover the money from the NPAs. So they can involve other trust or qualified institutional buyers to recover that money. So ये bank उसको थोड़ा सस्ते में बेचेगा और these companies will try to make some profit by recovering the money. So there's an investment opportunity for some class of investors. So risk high है क्योंकि और return भी high होगा. Agar if the company is going to recover this money, the return also is going to be high for the investors. So investors can be restructuring fund, private equity option, partner with the asset reconstruction companies, securitization or fund levels. I don't know how true this is after we have been hit by the pandemic. Obviously, it'll take some time for the Indian economy to recover, but the RBI and the government is working on ways to tackle the NPAs. So Indian economy buoyant and future outlook is positive. Right time to tackle NPA problem, maximize value and distribute it back to the system, re-energize the financial sector, unlock underutilized productive assets. A win-win model provides a medium-term structural banking sector solution. So with that, we come to the end of the asset products. So probably I've stressed a little bit today, but it's okay. We have finished this topic. For tomorrow, you have one assignment. Do you remember what is the assignment? Kalash, what is the assignment? What is the assignment?
मैम मैंने स्क्रीनशॉट लिया है
मैम
मैम डिमांड ड्राफ्ट
डिमांड ड्राफ्ट
ड्राफ्ट
बनाना है
नोटिस
डिमांड ड्राफ्ट नहीं बनाना है, डिमांड नोटिस बनाना है।
यस मैम डिमांड नोटिस
मैम ये आपने उसी के लिए कहा है ना जो मतलब कि लोन रिकवर करने के लिए बनाया जाता है।
हाँ, करेक्ट।
ओके मैम, ओके।
Tomorrow we will discuss it and tomorrow we'll have aptitude class. Okay. So assets और liability एकदम clear हो गया है। Liability में इतना कुछ खास रिस्क नहीं है, सिर्फ आपका मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का रिस्क है, टेररिस्ट फाइनेंसिंग का रिस्क है, पर लोन में बहुत रिस्क है। सबसे बड़ा रिस्क तो ये है कि पैसा वापस नहीं आए, तो किस तरह से हमको उसको मिनिमाइज करना है, क्योंकि यू नो आवर रोल विल बी टू सेल, वी विल बी रिक्वायर्ड टू सेल दीज प्रोडक्ट्स। तो किस तरह से हम अपने लिए और बैंक के लिए रिस्क मिनिमाइज कर सकते हैं, दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड। पहले तो अंडरस्टैंड द रिस्क एंड हाउ वी कैन मिनिमाइज। ओके, सो लेट अस कॉल इट अ डे टुडे, वी विल मीट टुमारो एंड कल आपका जो असाइनमेंट है वो आप करके आएंगे एंड वी विल डू एप्टीट्यूड टुमारो। फाइन, ओके, बाय बाय।
थैंक यू
मैम।